Greetings, my friends, and welcome to this episode of My Week in Horror. This is the episode that I've been dreading to make because it's about anthology movies. And on a side note, I have a beautiful scented candle burning, a lovely berry fragrance, and just enjoying it. Dan, why are you telling us about the candle? Well, I'm buying some time before I can say my first F word, which is coming up in a couple of seconds. 3, 2, 1. I fucking hate anthology movies, and I'm going to hate doing this episode, so fucking enjoy it. The 4 movies that we're looking at are from Hong Kong, Coffin Homes. Also from Hong Kong, Tales from the Occult. Apparently from Thailand, The Antique Shop. And this one's pretty obvious, the Vietnamese horror story, obviously from Vietnam. So as you can see, for modern anthology movies suck. There is only one good anthology movie, and that is the Three Extremes movie, and that is only because of the short story Dumplings. But anyway, let's get on with this bullshit of an episode and start with Coffin Homes. So, Coffin Homes, hey? Well, this is a bit awkward because this is directed by Fruit Chan, and in the intro that I just did, I said that the only good anthology movie ever made was The Three Extremes because of Dumplings, and he's the dude who directed Dumplings. So, let's check out what Coffin Homes is about. This is a classic, traditional Hong Kong anthology horror movie, but with a bit of a twist. Instead of 3 separate unconnected stories, what we have here are 3 separate tales that are told at the same time and that eventually intertwine with each other, which is actually quite interesting. The story itself, though, isn't. The 3 stories are a wealthy family who squabble over the sale of a luxury villa where the ghost of the matriarch of the family punishes all but one of her children due to their greed. We then have a property agent who's trying to sell a death flat, an apartment where a murder was committed, which is still inhabited by the ghost of the original owner and murderer who will defend the sale with all of his might. And lastly, we have a slum landlord who has subdivided his apartment into tiny rooms, which he sublets to a few different people, where the ghost of a 4-year-old child who died in a gas leak accident still resides and causes mischief. The link between all 3 stories goes beyond just the ghosts, though you'll have to watch the movie to find out more. Yeah, you know what? Better you than me. You watch the movie and then tell me what you think of it, because fuck in hell, God, do I hate anthology movies. And this one just... So, let's preface this by saying, because some people are going to go, this is not an anthology movie, Dan. You know, it is because there is 3 separate tales here. Now, I understand that all the tales are linked together, right? The real estate agent is also gets sucked into trying to sell the big house and is also the son of the slum landlord. And, you know, they're all fucking connected together. But this is terrible. And so the premise of this movie is supposed to be around property. Hence the whole, Coffin Homes thing. Witty satire about the current state of Hong Kong real estate. Now, this was made in 2021 during, the middle of the pandemic, where houses of prices went through the roof everywhere around the world. Here in Australia, they went fucking nuts. So, Hong Kong was no different. Hong Kong's always been the most expensive city in the world. Don't doubt that for a second. And a lot of the reviews that I read of this movie quoted that. And they made it out like it was a fabulous movie and very topical and that this comment had to be said. And all I could think of is that you, reviewer of Coffin Homes, were too chicken shit to say that the movie was shit. Because it is. It's just not fun to watch. I like one of the characters in the movie, and that is the guy who plays the butcher. I'm going to get his name. Hold on. Give me 1 second. It's Paul something. Paul Law. Is the butcher ghost. I like him. I think he does a great job. And Tai Bo is in the film. A great Hong Kong and Taiwanese actor. Kind of gets stuck in it. And Loretta Lee. And Susan Shaw, the woman with the funny jaw. I don't think anyone's allowed to say that. She's in this movie. Cast is good, but the film is just a load of utter horse shit. There's a lot of quick editing, which I didn't appreciate. And I'm an editor. I like good editing. Too much editing. Sometimes cuts are out of place. There's all of a sudden just a random cut of something will happen. And a great example is when some landlord just dumps a whole bunch of rubbish out on the street. It feels out of place. There's too much focus on one of the characters, which is the real estate agent, and not enough focus on the squabbling family. So you get this kind of outbalanced anthology movie. Now, you'll see in another example later in this video about unbalanced anthology movies, and this is an example of it. There is one scene I really liked in this film, and that happened towards the end, where the property agent goes to hell to get a signature, and it actually looks really good. It's really creative and really funny, but it doesn't make up for the rest of the movie. Now, if you are someone who likes anthology movies, I would like you to watch this and tell me two things. One, is it any good? Two, is it an anthology movie? Do you think it is? Or do you think it's just a badly told story? Using my ghost rating, which stands for great horror or stupid trash, I will award this movie 2 ghosts. 2 ghosts for the cast. It's a great cast for the butcher character. And because I like the scene at the end with the devil getting the signature. But otherwise, the rest of the movie is a write-off. I just think it's a bit unfair that I give it 1 star, 1 ghost, because as you'll see later on, there are some movies worthy of 1 ghost. This is not it. But it could have been a hell of a lot better. So, Coffin Homes, starting off today's episode, 2 ghosts. Now, on to the next one, which is also from Hong Kong. So, Tales from the Occult, another Hong Kong anthology movie. So, the first movie from Hong Kong dealt with the real estate market. This one deals with urban landscape and just things that happen in the background. And yet another movie with a great cast of characters. This one is a clear delineation when it comes to its anthologies. There's nothing that binds all of these stories together. They're just 3 stories. So let's find out what those 3 stories are. The first tale is the story of a musician who moves into a new apartment and starts to experience visions of a dead man she discovered when she was a schoolgirl. Feeling scared and lonely in her new apartment, she takes solace in a series of messages from what appears to be her new neighbor, but turns out to be something completely unwanted. The second tale is set in a mall that is reopening after a tragic fire that occurred there 14 years prior. Rumoured to be haunted, its main investor is a finance influencer with a long list of disgruntled clients who is live streaming at the mall as a promotion, but the mall seems to be living up to its rumour as strange characters are seen. And the final tale is set in an apartment building marked for reclamation. A handful of tenants, including an author writing her latest novel and an ex-gangster, reside in the building that seems to be haunted by a water ghost. Is the ghost real, or is there another explanation for it? So, if these stories were full-length movies, I think I would enjoy them. But it's an anthology movie, so by definition, I hate its fucking guts. Like the previous movie, this one has another great cast of actors. Richie Ren, whatever you want to call him, is in the final tale. Jerry Lam is in the second tale about the finance influence. And the very, very cute Cherry Nan is in the first movie. She's the girl with the little snuggletooth. Like I said, I think if they were proper movies, or if they were long episodes of a horror TV series, they would be really good and I would really enjoy them. But it's just, again, it's the anthology fucking nature that I hate. Just can't stand the format, and I don't understand why I don't like the format. I think it's because I want to sit down and watch a goddamned horror film, and I don't want to have to keep relearning new characters all the time. So this one, from a technical point of view, is terrific. It came out last year, 2022, with not much fanfare, but from all intents and purposes, there's really nothing wrong with this film. Now, every story is completely unsatisfying in its ending, and perhaps this is why I'm getting in my head thinking, yeah, well, this is why I hated it, right? It feels like that they have attempted to market this movie or make this movie so that they can release it in mainland China. So hence, there is nothing supernatural in this film. Everything is explained by real events, and I feel like I'm actually watching a Chinese horror film at times. The first story... No, you know what? I'm not going to spoil it. No, that's not fair. I'm not going to spoil what happens in the film, just to let you know that all three endings are completely unsatisfying. I did like the second story about the influencer in the building, because there's a lot of trickery in regards to his character and the scenarios that he's set up, that he's tricking people, and especially the interaction that happens on the live streams. Because there's multiple live streams happening. There's his live stream, but then there's also another woman there who's wants to confront him, and she's also live streaming the event. So you've got two competing live streams. It's really good, and it's kind of clever. And like I said, if that was, take that out and flesh it into 80 to 90 minutes and put a better ending on it, that's a great film right there. Because it's got some good effects, and the whole ghost bits that happen in the toilet really kind of spooky. I'll give it its kudos. And even the first story is a very kind of typical stalker type scenario. So you've got this singer who's kind of traumatized by finding a dead body. She kind of never got over it, and that's affected the kind of relationships that she's having with people, including her best friend, her manager, and the guy who lives in the apartment across the road. And so, like I've said in the synopsis, she takes solace in these text messages that she's receiving, but there is something really creepy happening there, and kind of felt a little bit like any of those stalker movies. I'm trying to think of something like Door Lock, but that's kind of a completely different type of scenario in regards to a film, in regards to stalker type films. But it could be like, if you liked Door Lock, you might like that first story. The last story had a lot of potential. It gives off a very... what's that Kubrick movie? With... what's his name in it? Here's Johnny. Oh, fuck, why can't I remember? Jack Nicholson's in it. The Shining. It gives off a bit of a Shining vibe with the author in it. And she's trying to write this story, but she can't quite write it that well. And... then you got all these mysterious people who move into the apartment. Well, there's one mysterious person who moves into the apartment, and people who are already there, and they slowly start dying thanks to a ghost. Now, all of that is explained, and not satisfactorily, because again, it gives off a Chinese horror movie vibe. That had the potential to go full on supernatural and be a really good film and a really good story in there, and they decided not to. So because of that, because they have done this with the film, originally I gave it 2 ghosts. So great horror or stupid trash. Originally I gave the movie 2 ghosts, but on reflection, I'm going to go back to 1. I'm going to go back to 1 ghost, because while the production value is great... Now that's not fair, because I gave Coffin Homes 2 votes, and this is slightly better than Coffin Homes. So I'm going to give this 2 ghosts. No, I'll take it back. 2 ghost film. I'll keep to my original rating. Again, the cast holds this one really well. Great cast and a great cast in the film. Let down by stupid endings for all 3 stories. And yet another nail in my I fucking hate anthology movies coffin. On to the next one, which is really bad. So you can tell I'm struggling to get through this episode because I'm really talking about 4 movies that I didn't like. And this one is not the worst of the 4. The next one is the worst of the 4. But this one's not that far off. This is The Antique Shop. Now, apparently it's from Thailand, right? But everyone speaks English in the film. And it's mostly English. So that makes me just wonder where it really is from and who the fuck this movie is for. So let's check out the synopsis. A man on his way to the airport stops by a creepy antique store where every piece has a story behind it. The first story he is told is of an Indonesian man who travels to Singapore as a driver but gets caught up with a dangerous gang. As they torture him, the ghost of a previous victim comes to his aid. The second tale is about a man who repeats his time in prison after he's caught killing his girlfriend. And the last tale tells the story of a man celebrating his birthday who plans the ultimate revenge on a trio of bullies who terrorized him as a teen. So this was the movie that I was referencing earlier on in the episode where the running time of the stories are out of balance. And what we have here is the first tale, which is about the Indonesian driver. It's probably about 20-ish odd minutes. And it's not bad, actually. I like this story. I don't quite remember how the story concludes, which is really bad of me. Because I remember I was kind of tuning out in this film. But I did like the action. The guy can take a fucking beating, I'll tell you now. And I did like that when he was getting tortured, there was this ghost in the location that kind of came to his aid, just as he's on the cusp of getting killed. So that part was good. And I think, again, like the last movie, if it was a horror series, 50, 60 minute series, episode series, 50, 60 minutes per episode, I think that one could be fleshed out a bit more and make a great episode. Better than a short story would. The second story, I barely remember. It flashed by so quick. And that's about the guy who wakes up in prison and then has visions of him killing his girlfriend who's unfaithful. But then for some reason, it keeps repeating over, like Happy Death Day, except he witnesses the same things repeating over and over again. I'm describing it badly because I fucking don't really remember it because it was so terrible. It was not engaging in the slightest, and it had me tuning out. Now, thankfully, if my memory serves me correctly, it is the shortest story in the movie, and it paved its way for the final episode, which was good. Yeah, I can't believe I'm saying that. It's about a pretty boy, very introverted, but, creepy, he invites these 3 dickheads to his house for a birthday party. And they realize that they are the only ones who are at the birthday party. And while they're going there, and even while they're waiting for him in the foyer of his house, they are retelling tales of how they used to bully the shit out of him and the things that they used to do to him. Even when they're sitting there having dinner, they're reminding him about how they treated him like shit. So the movie doesn't want us to like these characters in the slightest, and you don't. So he takes a bit of he relishes in his time in torturing them, and kind of setting them up into killing each other. And he does it in a clever way by pretending to be dead and having a suicide note and using a mannequin and all this kind of stuff. It's creative. It's the best of it's a good episode. Shit, I don't know what I'm saying here because I'm trying to think. Because I hate anthology movies, I keep thinking it was good and it was bad. It was always bad. But it was less intolerable than the middle story. And I think the Indonesian story probably would have been a lot better. But it's just shit. Like, where the fuck did this come from? I'm looking over here at the movie database, and it says it was released on the 2nd of June, and it's streaming on Netflix. Yeah, Netflix will buy anything, I think. It's shit. It's got a 25% user score, and that goes to show the quality. I don't even think the ghost effects were good. I don't think any of the supernatural effects were good. I just don't remember anything remarkable about the film other than awkward English being spoken, especially in the antique store. And this one, like the next one, is one of those stories that is it's wrapped around a wider story. So this one is a guy on his way to the airport who gets sucked into this antique store where the owner and her assistant start telling him stories about every little thing he picks up. And the last tale is to do with a series of knives, and the movie actually ends with the person who owns the knives coming and sitting down and going, "Oh, you told him my story." But all the English is so awkward, and it's one of those things where in real life none of these people would be speaking English to each other because no one would be able to understand anyone. So I don't know. Not even an anthology lover could get into this. I'd be hard pressed to find anyone other than K-pop fans, because while he's probably not a K-pop star, the guy in the third story, the guy who gets bullied, is a Korean good-looking man, boy, girl thing, super pretty dude. So maybe if you like Korean K-pop idols, you might like the third story. The rest of you steer very well clear of this. So using the ghost rating, great horror or stupid trash, it is very clearly a one ghost film. This one can go get fucked because the next one is just as, the next one's just as bad. So these next two, this movie and the next one can both go get fucked. On to the last one. The worst thing about this film is that it was the highest grossing Vietnamese horror movie of last year. Beating out The Ancestral, which was not a good film either. Vietnam did not make any good horror movies last year. I don't know what I can think of. But this is the highest grossing one, a Vietnamese horror movie of 2022. What the hell does that say about Vietnam? This is Vietnamese Horror Story, not to be confused with the awesome American Horror Story TV series. No. This has nothing to do with that. Let's go check out the synopsis of this one. On a stormy night, the power goes out in an apartment where a group of friends have gathered for the evening. They decide to tell some scary tales. First tells the tale of an actress who recruits a hot new star for her movie, but she has some sinister motives behind it. Second is about a man who seems to share his apartment complex with a bunch of dead people. And the last tale is about a psychic who has been tasked with finding the remains of a missing woman. Now, I think I watched this movie about 3 or 4 months ago, and I remember watching it and going, well, I can save some time by not reviewing it. And here I am 4 months later, talking about it on my Week in Horror episode about anthology movies. The episode, and there will be another one because there are so many more anthology movies I've watched that I need to cover. But I'm not sure that they're going to get any worse than this. Now, supposedly, this movie is based around a whole bunch of Vietnamese urban legends. So that's great. So if you're Vietnamese, you probably really understand a lot of these stories. And that probably goes a long way into explaining why this made the most money out of all horror movies in Vietnam last year. Doesn't go ahead and explain why you should watch it, because I'm struggling to remember the last story about the psychic. All I remember is the really poor special effects to do with eyeballs on hands that remind me of Pan's Labyrinth, and the two twin boys which remind me of the twin girls from The Shining. And I don't really think it was all that great. The effects were just horrible. So it's not remarkable. The second tale was probably the most creative out of all of it. And this is this guy who's some kind of magician, who doesn't seem to want to grow up. At least that's how it appears to be, that he just wants to be this kind of sideshow magician. But it lives in a very poor part of the city, so he's not like he doesn't make a lot of money. And he lives with his dad in an apartment complex, and there are other people in the apartment complex, specifically an older woman that he seems to spend a lot of time just looking after, making sure she's fine, that he later finds out is dead, and that everyone's in the apartment complex is a ghost. And we probably need to explore a bit more about what that story is about to fully understand it. And because of that, we've probably got no real interest in it. But then the first story, I reckon that has potential to be a proper full-length movie and should be explored, because there's a great tale there about a actress, a forever young-looking actress who takes on two new girls to be in a movie with her, and comes under the proviso that these girls are like her understudies, and she will just start training them up to be these characters, these famous actresses. Or one specifically, she does this too. The other girl gets booted out, and but to do that, she has to kind of give up her old life, which means her old boyfriend. What I liked about this one is that there was a very clear kind of fountain of youth, without giving too much away, story here. That's the girls all served a purpose for this main actress. And even the main actress served a purpose. She wasn't the original character in the film. She was someone else. And then down in the basement, there's this someone chained up. I think if you would explore that one and make that a proper full-length movie, because unlike the tales from the occult that all had these boring, shitty, can be explained by real-life thing endings, this one has supernatural stuff. So go ahead and play on the supernatural element, because that'll get my interest. Something spooky, something supernatural. I don't want things explained by, oh yeah, there's a dude in a mask. I don't give a fuck. I want supernatural. I want ghosts. I watch a horror movie for ghosts. I don't watch it for a Scooby-Doo reveal. So at least this movie has that going for it. But I hated the whole wrapper of the movie being all these dickheads in their apartment when the power goes out. Firstly, because the movie opens up with the scene of them, and it's what, 10 minutes or so before the first story gets started. So there's far too much development of these people who really mean nothing to the grand scheme of the movie. This is probably one of those examples where I would have gone, fuck off those middle bits and just have 3 stories in a row, right? The fact that you've tried to connect them all together by having a scary ghost story doesn't click for me. I hate it. And again, we're coming to the end of the fact that I just fucking hate anthology movies. And one day I might find one that I enjoy. And if you know of one, I'm more than happy to check it out. But I've seen Haunted Universities. I think that's an anthology movie. Maybe it's not. There's some fucking Thai movie that I saw recently that was a anthology movie. Not that shitty antique shop, but something else. You know, I have to go and check out some of the other anthology movies that I've watched to make another episode about this. But before I move on, great horror or stupid trash Vietnamese horror story. One ghost, clear one ghost. Just everything's awful. I hated the acting, hated the special effects. I hated the last story. I liked the first and second stories, but they just needed more work. They needed to be unshackled from what they were being held back by, which was the whole concept of the anthology. I don't understand Asia's obsession with anthologies. You're kind of tripling your work, filmmakers. If you're on a budget, you're tripling your work by having triple the amount of sets, triple the amount of actors, triple the amount of stories that need to be written. Just write one good story, make it go for 85 minutes, film the shit out of that, make that look good, release that, everyone's fucking happy. If you got 3 stories, make 3 movies. Don't make an anthology. They're shit. Change my mind. Or not. I've been the Artie Dance. Thank you for watching this episode of My Week in Horror. If you've got anthology suggestions, more than happy to look at them in the comments below. I really am. And I'm happy to check out more of them. Just bear in mind that I'll fucking hate it. Okay? Thank you so much for this. Thank you for listening to my bullshit rant. I look forward to catching you in the next episode where I'm going to look at Mamun, the Indonesian horror comedy. Thank you, and catch you next time.